Welcome to another episode of WellteQ Talks. I'm Scott Montgomery, the CEO of WellteQ, and we're very fortunate today to have the CEO of Savonix, Dr. Mylea, here today to talk about cognitive performance. So welcome, Mylea.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's great to be here in Singapore with you.
Great to have you. So cognitive performance, big term.
Yeah.
What does that mean in layman's terms?
So, I think the best way to describe it is just to talk about it in terms of the domains that we're talking about. So things like memory or processing speed, impulse control, emotion regulation, which we all know people at work that aren't very good at that, right?
A little
bit more. So things like this, it's the functional output of our brain that helps us get along with our activities of daily living.
Got it. Okay, so it's basically how your brain works and how, is it fair to say, how efficient or how inefficient that might be functioning?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be affected by so many different things, right? So certain aspects of cognition are really sensitive to disturbances in sleep or to stress or other things in our life that interfere and cause us problems.
Got it. So how do you know if you're off kilter, if you need to come and see a professional about cognitive performance?
Well, that was what I did before I started Savonix. So I was a neuropsychologist and I practiced and I saw patients. And so traditionally you go, maybe see a doctor, but that seems a little over the top. Yeah. If all you're trying to do is sort of gauge, is everything normal? Am I getting along? And kind of figure out day to day, are things, on track for where they should be, based on maybe my age or my education level, things like that. And so what we do is we do really short bursts of testing that's objective tests for things like processing speed, attention, visual spatial memory. Think of that as part of driving, executive function, working memory, verbal memory, things like this. Okay. And you can look at that and you can see if you're experiencing any downward trends or anything like that. And if you are, one of the things we do is we also assess lifestyle factors, and we can look at that and say, okay, well, your cognition looked really good at baseline, but now we see you're not sleeping very well. Maybe you're getting really stressed. Some other things are happening, and now we're seeing performance decline. And that's a good time to recommend making some changes around, say, sleep or diet to help bolster cognitive performance.
Understood. Yeah, great. And so the implications of that in a workplace setting can be pretty clear and obvious, I would think. So if you're not sleeping well or if you're not functioning well, that would bring an element of risk into the workplace. What's the application into a workplace setting?
Huge. I mean, there's a lot of people that are starting to look at this. Traditionally we did things like the Myers-Briggs type indicator in the workplace, right? Which is great because that's about personality and how you get along with others and see the world. But we work in a very interesting world these days. I mean, traditionally work was labor. It was very manual, right? But today most work is intellectual, right? It's completely intellectual. And so, and even if you're driving a car or flying a plane, that's really a very intellectual or very cognitively tasking form of work. And so when we think about it, cognition can vastly impact performance at work. So I mentioned earlier, I was joking about emotion regulation. Right? Really important in the workplace to preserve relationships, get along. Impulse control in decision-making processing. If you see impulse control start to fall off, if that's a banker or an executive, that can cause the company a lot of problems. And you would want to know that trend is starting to happen. And impulse control can be affected by things like, as differentiated as substance abuse problems to sleep problems to, even marital stress or other factors in a person's life.
Got it. So I think we might deep dive next into some of these specific use cases around shift change, light and heavy vehicle operators, and also the high stress working environment of professional services. But we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So thanks, Mylea.
Thanks for having me.
Soon. Pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening.